ladies are ready.
Hello, how are you all today?
Good. Good.
I'm Crystal Hardeman. I'm the Associate Director for the Leadership Engagement and Development Department.
And I'm Danielle Davis, and I'm the Director for Lead and Seats.
And what we do is we intend to be an intentional and individualized leadership development experience to equip and inspire everyday students to lead the change. And we do that through our three-pronged approach. We do with leadership education, global education, and service learning. We know through our philosophy that leadership can be learned. We know we do not need to hold a position to be leaders, and each student has a unique set of values and beliefs, and they go through an ethical process. We want to teach unselfish service, and then have active participants in a globally connected world. We want to enact social change through our 4 core components and 12 competencies, through individual growth, group awareness, community building, and continuous development. We do that through several programs. One of them being Leadership. It's a new program this year. We were able to send 10 students away, or we're able to send 10 students away to a 7-day, 6-night leadership experience, and this is where they are immersed in the leadership experience. And we have been able to do 3 separate sessions, one being the Latinx session, one being the African American male session, and then our general session. We also have the first year leadership class. This is where we have a group of students who have class all year long, and they're able to dive into diverse and intentional dialogue, and they also have a living learning community. And these students end up being some of our top tier student leaders. And we have iExperience, which is an overnight off-campus experience. It's individualized and it's focused on individual self-awareness. And we take up to 90 students every year. And then the Extraordinary Leadership Series, we have a variety of experiences from different opportunities every single semester. And we've had representatives from 8 different departments, from the campus, from community, and of course students. And we have programs on campus, in the Greenville community, and all the way to Dallas. So it's not just here on campus.
So another one of our programs is Leadership Without Limits. It's one of our pride and joys, along with everything else, of course, but it's an opportunity for our students to travel abroad. In the past, we've had Italy, Spain, South Korea, New Zealand, and this year, in a couple weeks, we're going to Thailand. We take approximately 15 students to the opportunity, and I'm going to talk to you about the growth a little bit later on. Another one of our programs is NSLS, also known as National Society of Leadership and Success. That's one of our largest programs. We actually had to inherit that without any of the funds, so we kind of take the leadership with no funds. But it's our largest student organization on campus with approximately 500 students a semester that go through this program. And we have about 35 executive board members as well. Dare to Roar is another one of our programs, and it's Dare to Change the commerce community 1 hour at a time. So if you look at this, it engages our students in community service and service learning. This past year, we've had 6 individual programs. You see those listed there. Thanks for giving. Tis our care the season to give. But one of those largest programs for Dare to Roar is Operation Blue and Gold. That's our largest day of service. So this past year, we had 256 students, faculty, and staff do approximately 14 houses, or even the Commerce High School, where we painted, we mulched, we cleaned out gutters for those who couldn't afford to do those things. And so that's an opportunity for us to build that town and gown relationship that we've always talked about, including what the president wants us to do as well. Growth and future programs. So one of the programs that I think we delve a little bit deeper in with our students is called Lion Peer Educators. And that's a collaboration between Lead and Seeds. Essentially, we have been training these students for the last year, and about once a week they get trained for 3 hours in regards to what it means to be a social justice advocate, but also bystander intervention. And our students are, it's 9 students right now. Our students have gone out and done presentations for other students, so it's better to have a peer-to-peer relationship versus us as faculty and staff talking to the students about these things. Another thing we have coming up we're excited about is Student Organization Symposium. So essentially when a student gets SORF funding or SOAC funding, we're making the student organizations come back and present. So it's not just good enough at this point in time to get some money. We're like, okay, what did you get and what did you learn? And so that's a collaboration between ourselves and student organization. And just so you know what's happening no matter what, so we're going to make it work. It's February 23rd of 2019. And another one of those things that we have is leadership certificate. This past year we had 12 students involved in that. And so we want to really grow that program. We intentionally had 12 because it's so deep and delved in that we want to make sure we get the kinks out of the way. And so we're looking to grow that program for next year. So talking about the numbers, I just want to point out last year we cut by $50,000, and so we're asking for a little bit more than what you would assume. You see that we're asking for a difference of $23,067 when it comes to salaries. Typically, that's not an increase for us. Last year, you all cut the budget for a GA for our NSLS. Unfortunately, because we had a 2-year contract with that GA, we couldn't cut those funds. We would want to make sure we stay out of the news and the media. So we had to continue to fund that person. But as a result, we've been able to take away the three GAs that we have, and we now have an assistant director that we just hired to be able to do what those GAs would have done. The increase in the bulk is a difference of $39,500, and essentially we're looking to increase LWL. LWL, again, as I mentioned, has about 15 students. Sophomore year experience was a feeder program for Leadership Without Limits. They're now doing away with that program. So we're looking to take those students and give them a global experience they may not have gotten through sophomore year experience. We're looking to grow the leadership certificate, as I told you, was 12 students. We want to grow those more. FLC, we also want to do some community service components, and so we're growing that by about 500. And Dare to Roar, last year, Alternative Spring Break Trip, we got nothing for that. So we had to cut that program. In the past, students have enjoyed that, so we want to bring that program back, as well as Operation Blue and Gold. It gets a little pricey, and we want to grow it to the 500 students that the goal has been. We got to pay for food, the t-shirts, and supplies and things like that. This is what we're looking to cut. We have to. ELS programs, we typically take the students off campus to Dallas, and so unfortunately if we have to do that, that's what we have to do. We have to bring them here, and so that's about 2,000. Leadership certificate, if we can't grow that program, it would be 5,000, and then Leadership Without Limits, if we cannot take additional students, that would be another 10,000. Questions?
Okay, questions for Danielle and Crystal?
Yes.
What percentage of all these travel events do students cover themselves?
Talk to me more about that.
When you take I guess it's the year, I can't remember.
Leadership Without Limits?
Yeah, the 20.
That's a great question. Okay, so Leadership Without Limits, the funding that we get for that literally only pays for their flights. Our students pay $600 a semester, and this past year, I don't know if you've noticed, the students have been fundraising their butts off to the point where this year alone is record-breaking. They've raised between $10,000 to $12,000 themselves. So essentially the funding that you give us only pays for the flight. They're paying for essentially their food, the entry into things, Airbnbs, and so on and so forth.
How are those students selected for that program?
So sure, it's an application process, and shout out to the students who are here. The application closes today at 11:59. But the students apply, and so essentially we're looking at their GPAs. We're looking at them being top student leaders, and that means that are they involved in, it doesn't have to be something on campus, but maybe off campus. We understand there's computer students who can't do that. And then they get accepted, so we read through all the applications, grade that, and then they have a meeting literally in 2 weeks, and then they will be able to fundraise throughout the entire semester. So that's how the students are there. And it has to be juniors and seniors. If we get the acceptance to have more students, we'll open up to sophomores. So where the sophomore year experience was cut, we now open it up to sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
We cap it?
We do have to cap it just because of the funding. So we have to cap it at 15. Our flights typically cost between $1,200 to $1,500. So that's where that, I think I asked for like $20,000 to $25,000. That's where that comes from.
The additional $39,500 was for additional 15 students?
So additional 10 students to go.
10 students.
10 students to go.
Okay, so it'd be 5.
20. Is it 20 in there? I don't know. What do you mean?
What did you say for LW?
And so right now we're taking 15 students. So
Okay.
depending on, so this is the other thing too, depending on where we go, the flights cost more. So for example, Thailand, we went there, the flights were a little bit cheaper than last year we went to New Zealand. New Zealand was about $1,700. So we know typically Crystal and I will choose 2 places to go to, and we'll look up the flights ahead of time. So if we know that the flights are going to be a little bit cheaper, that's when we can accept more students.
Other questions for Crystal, Danielle?
I do want to mention really, really quickly before we leave about our service hours. Last year we had 1,400. This year we have 2,448,000 hours. So that's an increase for over 1,000 hours for this year for service.
Okay.
On your international trips, what do you, I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's probably, you're going where I was.
what do you do on the trips?
Yeah, that's exactly.
What do you
I'm
do?
going.
So quite a few things. So one, we definitely do community service and service learning. So for example, we're doing each of the cities that we go to. We typically go between 2 and 3 cities. We do community service there. So this upcoming year, we're working with local children and then also doing some cleanup. In the past, we've helped. What was last year?
The reupholstering chairs for the neighborhood department, where this neighborhood had been revamped, because people had come in and torn it down, and we were helping to rebuild this neighborhood.
Right. So those are some of the things that we do. We also talk to government. So this past year, we were really excited that we were able to go to Parliament, and we were actually able to go to on the floor, Parliament floor. We visit museums. We have conversations with other colleges. So we were able to visit last year New Zealand, University of New Zealand, excuse me, and have conversations about what is the difference between here and there. Students are able, we have follow-up conversations at the end about what have you learned, what is the difference between what we do. I can talk to Shelby. Shelby, what did y'all do last year? As you went.
We did a lot. I didn't know if I was on top.
Yep, nope, yep, that's fine.
Yeah, pretty much everything that Ms. Danielle said, plus more. I think the most meaningful thing, besides the community service, everything else she's talked about, is I got to meet people from dozens of different cultures. Talked about all these different lifestyles that are very different than the American way. And so I felt like, I know we really harp on global leadership in our office, and that's something that I walked away and was like, I feel like I'm a part of this community of people that are different than me, from different cultures, different countries. So everything and so much more.
Other questions for Danielle and Crystal? All right, ladies, appreciate your time.
Thank you.